Hello and welcome. Good evening from Brands Hatch. We are here at the Indy circuit for the penultimate round of the Sport Bike Cup, as we unfortunately see the championship leader there, Finley Cottenham, go down at turn 1. We've got some amazing action coming your way today. It's myself, Riley Davis, in the commentary box. Alongside me this time we have two commentators, Mason Roth and Jack Hammer. Join me in the commentary box to take you through this, what promises to be an amazing scene of action here. Brands Hatch Indy might not be the longest circuit, but it is definitely no slouch when it comes to the action.
Definitely not. 48 seconds, 47 seconds, depending on the lap time and what bike you're on. You never get a chance to breathe, really. Just none of the straights are actually straight. Constantly on the brakes, constantly on the right hand side of the tyre, apart from two corners. Henry Mack is round the outside. He's currently on pole position. But I think this track's probably the most level in terms of all the bikes, because there's such a lack of, it's so small, the difference in the bikes are less exaggerated.
Yes, at the moment, at the top of the standings, we do have Finley Cottenham with 79 points. 9 points ahead of Ross, who has had a incredible second half of the season. Then in third is the man who won his first race this season, the man we're watching on screen right now, Henry Mack. He's been so consistent, got many pole positions over the season. It took him a long time to take his first win last time out, but now he's got that win in the bag and he's got a chance at taking the title to Finley. Mason, as someone who has fought for titles before in motorcycle racing esports, be it SDPG or other things, how does Henry go about this with such a gap, with only 2 rounds to go? 14 points is a big gap to close, especially considering how small the grids are.
Yeah, well, all he'll be hoping to do now is to be able to ride consistently doing good laps. Yeah, he's currently on pole position by some margin, I'm not sure what the margin is, but oh my giddy aunt, I'm stuttering here.
Fine.
Yeah, the best thing to do is be able to ride consistently and put some pressure on your rivals, maybe pressure them into a mistake by getting into head.
As Henry comes down the Brabham straight in the lead of this race. Finley has got some work to do to beat that lap time, 0.3 of a second, but Brands Indy, Jack, is a little bit of a different story in terms of how you manage to flow over one lap than it is Brands GP.
Yeah, so Brands GP, probably my favourite track to ride on these games since Alton Park's no longer on the game. But GP, nice flowing, and then you got the back end of the circuit under the trees where it's really all about your timing. Here, you get no chance to breathe, no chance to collect yourself. You're just constantly going right, left, right, constantly like that. And all second, third gear-ish corners, apart from maybe the Druid's hairpin, which could be in first gear depending on your bike and your gearing. But some corners like turn 2 and clearways, they are your crash corners. So especially on the Kawasaki, if you downshift the tiniest bit wrong, your front end is gonna fold. So it's just got to try and it's hard because you got to try and stay concentrated, but it's only a 48-second lap. So, and it's one of these because it's so small, a 10th gap in real time is probably 2 tenths. So a small mistake's actually going to be a lot more costly than the GP circuit would be, for example.
Yeah, a wonderful analysation there from such a successful rider in these championships. Of course, 2-time eSport champion is Jack Hammer. As they dive now down into turn 3, Graham Hill Bend. A dramatic corner in the form of many different motorcycle racing series. As they now come around the right hand. Oh, that's a crash there, Finley Cottenham. An easy one to do. Just trying to solve some issues. Perhaps fixed now. Yeah, you are heard, Jack, on the stream. You're all good.
Yeah,
that's fine.
Yeah, I just pressed the wrong thing.
It's okay. Well, at least that happens in qualifying and not in the race. We are all heard now, and with 6 minutes left of the session, it is another 3/10 of a gap between the GSX-8R and the ZX-4R at the top of this race. But with the confidence that we know Henry Mack has, especially off the back of a race win, Mason, yourself off a race win as well at the Ulster GP and SDPG, what confidence does that give you for the rest of the season, especially when there's a challenge to take on like Henry has got here?
Exactly. Well, for me, fortunately, I've still got a long season ahead of me. But Henry has got, well, this round and the next one really to pull back up to the top of the championship. He has been fighting for it all season, and obviously I've been absent for a few rounds, so I don't know what kind of mistakes he's had. But he can catch up very well.
Yeah, and he will definitely rise to that occasion. Oh, a big moment there as he caught the outside curb on the Brabham straight and unfortunately took into the gravel. But at the moment, he's still on provisional pole position. Ross on the Kawasaki in third with the 48.0. The top three in the championship, gentlemen, are all the top three in qualifying as Ross follows his teammate Mogsy on the MLD branded Kawasaki ZX4R. Looks quite similar to the Prodina Kawasaki's in the Sport Bike Championship, slightly more fluo Rossi yellow as Ross gets very close to the back of his teammate as they now head to Druids. It's almost like they're battling here, but that might help you in a race situation to battle this hard in qualifying and follow each other so closely. It sort of gets you into the race mind rhythm, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's especially with like a slipstream down the home straight can probably gain you a tenth, if depending on what bike you're on. Especially you need it if you're on the Yamaha because it's got such lack of acceleration. Getting that little bit slipstream because top end the Yamaha is the fastest. Because unfortunately you're never going to get the top end. Your gearing maybe you can get to 6th gear, but you're never going to get to the top end speeds. So trying to get some slipstream and maybe practicing battling is definitely going to be important, especially if you are the front runners, just in case you do need to get a bad start, because the Kawasaki I noticed last week was really poor compared to the Suzuki, which isn't really that much of a surprise given the CC and the torque differences, but I reckon it could be interesting to see that when we do go racing. It is quite be important during this qualifying session to try and understand the difference to the strengths of the Kawasaki, the Suzuki and the Yamaha.
Yeah, it does seem to be, as we said before, the Yamaha not quite being the package capable of being at the top. But at the moment, Willie Sham currently 4th on the grid, at least for now. Here he comes to the line looking to improve. That's definitely not going to be improvement. Definitely ran into an issue, possibly at Graham Hill Bend before. He's in 4th, 48.0, and only 15 thousandths of a second off of Ross. So it seems to me, as I mentioned, that Henry has that gap, that buffer going into the race, and a gap as big as 3/10 of a second, a track as small as this, and with the job that Henry has to do in the championship is going to give him a huge confidence boost going into the main race. I imagine when you have such an amazing pace as Henry clearly does here, and you have such a big job to do, it's going to really enlighten your chances, because your best opportunity to win this title is to just clear away and let everyone fight at the back, because everyone's pace is so much more closer together.
Exactly. Henry's in this situation where he's 14 points back, he gained 16 in the last round, and he's got the momentum on his side, he's the fastest in the session. So it's pretty simple. Go out, do the pace you can do. It's clearly the fastest pace, the most consistent pace. If he can get into the lead and clear off, that's all he's got to care about. Don't worry about what happens behind you once the race is finished. If Finley's second, then you got to win both races anyway. Doesn't matter. But don't worry about Finley. Don't worry about Armagh. Don't worry about anybody. Just focus on your job, get first place, and then see what the standings are at the end of that race.
Yeah, exactly that. The words of a champion right there from Jack. Finley Cottenham, though, has got time to respond. He's still got 2.5 minutes left of this session, which is very important, because with that immense amount of time left, that's actually a lot of time to set at least 2-3 laps at this point at Brands Indy. That GSX-8R, as you said, Jack, seeming to be the top bike on the grid, but Henry making the difference on that ZX-4R, 47.584 for him. Clearly the upper hand at the moment, also in mentality. But we've seen big differences in the race. Sometimes in Ride 6, the race can just come to you. Even I've had races like that at times, in Ride 5 at least, where qualifying doesn't go all that well. And unfortunately for the man you're battling, they underestimate how strong you're going to be, and the race rhythm just comes out of nowhere because you're in that battle, and it almost motivates you to find something a bit more. So Willie Sham makes his way down into the paddock hill bend. He's got his way up into third, and unfortunately he's gone down. That is a real shame for him.
Paddock hill bend's not one I find usually. I mean, if the rear lifts, then that's when it can happen, because when the rear comes down, you get the front gets pushed, and then whap, you lose the front. But yeah, for me, just gotta. Oof. Oh, and that's another mistake you can do, because especially with the R7 I've discovered riding here. The way I can describe it, you gotta ride it like a two-stroke. Try and get because it's got such awful acceleration. You gotta try and keep it in those high revs. So it is like maximum corner speed, and into turn one, it's a real knife edge. Just going through here, you go whap on the throttle. You got to try and get out right to the edge of the curb, but then the front will start protesting. If you get it too early or whatever, or you turn too tight to begin with,
Whoa.
you're gonna end up in that gravel. You're gonna go down, and that is a bit of an incident there at the exit of Druids.
Yeah, has Sutton, I believe, just having an issue on his pink and yellow power slide inspired GSX-8R. As we wait for this qualifying session to come to a close, the final 10 seconds, and Mogsy has found his way up into this top 3. A new face in the championship, someone I've commentated on before in many different championships, SDPG and the 24RS Road Racing Championship. Someone you've raced against, Jack, Mason. 47.7 for him. That gets him all the closer to Henry, and sort of in the ways of Marc Marquez in 2015. How annoying would it be for Finley? He's currently got that 14-point gap over Henry, but to have Mogsy implement himself into this championship fight, how's that going to affect his mindset?
Well, I've had this happen to me a few times, with me fighting for a championship, and then another rider who he's very good at a circuit like Mogsy seems to be. Well, Mogsy's really good all round, but once they get in the middle and you can see they have the edge over you, and it becomes hard to pass them, and your rivals manage to get in front of them, it's quite annoying, and it does get into your head, but all you can really do is move on and keep trying to push through.
Yeah, exactly that. But pushing through to pole position is Henry Mack. A 47.584 from him. A decent gap to another ZX4R behind. Clearly, the Kawasaki Ninja proving its worth here at Brands Hatch Indy. Such a short track requiring such heavy acceleration. But yeah, Mogsy doing a great job to get on the front row in his debut. But I will remind that gap is at 9 points between Finley Cottenham in the lead and Ross in second. Can the Scot make the difference in the race? We just said how race pace can make all the difference compared to qualifying, but now it is all in the hands of Finley. It's his championship to lose, and now pressure can really build up once you know how fast your rival is.
Sure can. It's Finley's in that situation where he's in the lead, and the back of your mind is your biggest enemy. You need to try and silence it in any way possible, and try and focus on winning. It's easy to do when it's the start of the championship. Once it comes to crunch time, that's when you know that you maybe can't afford mistakes, and your brain starts saying, well, don't do this, don't do that. And when you start thinking how to ride, that's when you're slower. So Finley's just got to ignore that Henry's so fast, because we saw Henry, we've seen so far this season, Henry's been in multiple positions to win, and for some reason he hasn't. He did win the last one, and Finley made a massive mistake on the last lap, dropping from 1st to 7th. So simple. Finley's got to keep his head down. He probably knows he hasn't got the pace to beat Henry. He might get a good start though, because he's on the Suzuki, but he knows realistically second's probably his best unless Henry makes a mistake. So I think that's what he's got to aim for.
Yeah, exactly that. As we now go to the grid to get ready, the penultimate round of the SPORTBIKE Cup coming your way. More announcements also coming your way regarding the future of the series. But right now we're in the present, and the present is the lights are out, and away we go. And as you said, Jack, away fantastically is the championship leader. Finley Cottenham leads down into Paddock Hill Bend. You have to be careful in these situations because of how tight together everyone gets down into Druids, and that is proving to be correct right here as Has Sutton goes through into second. Getting a good start was Willie Sham as well on the R7, who's unfortunately dropped back into Druids. The parallel twins getting the grunt off the line, but away where was Finley Cottenham, who catches the curb away at Graham Hill Bend. Someone in the background struggling off the line. Rez Rossi's down in 6th place, so not the best start for him. More time that he needs to regroup. 1 lap of 12 and Henry's already making a move, but it's a great start from Finley to boost his confidence for the rest of this race.
Ward Henry takes the lead at the end of the first lap through the Chris curve, or the Clark curve, sorry. Getting ahead of myself from the last week. But Finley uses the power of the Suzuki back up the inside before Paddock Hill Bend, but Henry's going to get the exit out of Paddock Hill Bend up towards Druids. Side by side they go onto the brakes. Who's going to be the strongest? And it's just about to be Henry, but Henry's had to turn too early, so there you go. Finley retakes the lead, but Finley's already picked up a penalty, and he might pick another one there, going into the green paint, going downhill towards Graham Hill Bend. It's a really easy corner to mess up. Finley get onto the paint, so Finley's pushing the limits. Henry, I don't think he's have to push that hard. He might just wait now to get some slipstream down the home straight. Close to the curve, they don't want to be hitting that curve of all things. And Finley again taking a wide line, and Mogsy's now in the fight to maybe create some championship spoils as we head to start lap number 3.
Yeah, lap 3 of 12, and now it's all hotting up here. It's 1 Suzuki versus 3 Kawasaki's as they head down Paddock Hill Bend. Up the inside comes Mogsy. Ross is on the outside. The top 3 of the championship with Mogsy there to make the difference. Look at this for a race here at Brands Hatch on the Indy circuit. Finley Cottenham nerves his championship rival out of the way, and Ross moves up into second. Henry McCartney dives for the inside at Graham Hill Bend, gets the move almost done, not quite enough on the exit. Ross now attacking the championship leader, looking to take advantage, heading to the final round at Donington Park. Look at this! Ross up the inside, Mogsy up the inside, contact as Finley gets ran wide by the only man not in this championship fight as they continue to run side by side on the Brabham Straight, and already has Sutton looking to rejoin the fight. Ross leads, Henry behind him, Mogsy in 3rd, Finley in 4th, but that's all going to change again as they go down the hill and up to Druids. Now, Ross is in the perfect situation here. Mason, what does he have to do to make sure he maintains this lead as they battle behind him?
He just needs to stay out trouble. These guys, that these 3 continue to battle. As we've also got 2 more potentially joining him in Has and Tillin. As that's a bit of a mistake from Ross. And now, but I think Henry's now he's not being overtaken. Now he can take the slipstream. The slipstream proving really powerful. Not surprising with these really small capacity bikes, but the slipstream because it's so small and there's not much you can do. It's just creating a really compact, and you can just dive bomb, and it's causing real problems for people. As now Mogsy, it's going to be a I can't remember the name of the team, but it's a yellow Kawasaki 1-2 potentially as it goes to the end of lap 4. 1/3 of the race already done, and Ross is opening a slight gap as Henry, Finley and Mogsy continue to battle. And I'm interested to see what the penalty situation is on. Willie Shammer has gone because all of them have got penalties, but Henry got the penalties last, and Henry's back into 2nd place and Finley's down to 4th, so that's a 7-point swing. That means it'd be 7 points going to the last round, but Ross would crucially take the lead of the championship by 3 points.
Exactly that, the championship battle getting all the tighter as contact there as Finley runs into the grass and he goes down! Contact with Mogsy. We were saying how a championship rider who isn't part of that battle like Mogsy can make all the difference, and contact with Finley Cottenham. The Suzuki goes barreling down into the final corner. Devastation for Finley Cottenham as Ross now leads this race, and at this point the championship, Henry now has to make sure that he makes the most out of this. What does he do? Make sure he can gain as much points as possible on Finley by staying calm and taking this second behind Ross, or does he go for the big fish and go every point he needs to be competitive going into Donington Park? Mason, of course, a situation that you might be aware of in Ride 6. These are important times now where mentality comes into play. Does Henry wait for this? Does he take that safe 2nd place, or does he push on to pass Ross because he knows Finley might catch up?
That's this one basically. The smart choice to do is well, like I mentioned before, pressure your rival a bit to push them into a mistake. Like at the Ulster, I knew a lot of people would fall off. It's quite common people make mistakes when fighting for wins or podiums. Eventually, as we say, Henry looking for the inside here, we will go for the outside though. Ross does cover that nicely, but yeah, it's more yeah, it's more playing with your rival mentally, as Henry does get past Ross, but he's going to look back to the inside, is Ross, and he does seem to reclaim the position. Henry's going to go for the switch, round clack curve. Can he get it done though?
Wow, that was truly amazing from Henry as the battle fully commences and Mogsy watches on. Finley Cottenham down in 5th. We've lost a lot of riders from this race already as Henry loses the position to Ross. These two fighting for a championship, but also fighting each other. You feel like, really, Jack, they need to work together because these two on the ZX4s, they have to make sure that they stay on it and collect these ever important points to close the gap on Finley. But I'll tell you what, 4th place is not bad for Finley considering that crash. So at this rate, not too bad of a result if it ends like this. And it might not, because if these two keep battling, something can easily happen.
Absolutely. I mean, so this is a situation, from the spectator's perspective, it's probably most ideal. Henry first, Ross second, and if Finley finished 5th, they'd be on tie. All three of them would be tied on the same amount of points heading into the final round. So that's the situation. Finley currently leads by 2 points with Ross and Henry tied on points. But as you say, Ross and Henry keep battling, and I think it is just down to the slipstream, and I think they've got to work together, but I think the problem with Ross is he knows that Henry's got a bit of a stronger pace. So if he goes for the strategy just following him, there's a chance that Henry could just streak away. Whereas overtaking him constantly will mean he can stay in front, and that does mean that it will bring Mogsy into it, which means if he wins, he could extend the lead. He can take the lead on Finley and extend his lead on Henry to make it more secure for the final round. So it's all a game of strategy as we're heading towards the pre-penultimate lap. Henry's pulled out about a 3/10 gap, which probably is just about enough to hold on to without having to worry about dive bomb, but it's getting tight as we're heading to the final couple of laps.
Yeah, exactly that. A perfect analysation there on what might happen in this battle. Not only in the race, but in the championship as penalties get larger. A moment on the curbs lost him time and the penalty even more. 2/10 is the penalty for Henry McCartney. Half a second now for Ross in 2nd place. That's huge for the man currently sitting 2nd in the championship. Mogsy doing everything he can to help out his teammate in joining this fight, but also making sure that he doesn't drop the bike and give Finley a free place on the podium. Here we go, 2 laps to go, one more time for the dress rehearsal, and this time Ross wants to make an effect. Down into Paddock Hill Bend, he's going to send a Hail Mary dive from way back. That might end in contact, and he's aware. He sits up the bike to avoid it, and Henry Mack is wise to challenge. Here we go, into Druids. It's all do or die, whether you want to win this race or the championship. It can be both or neither. Ross can do his absolute best to fight off Henry Mack, but Mogsy is going to be there as always to try and challenge.
This is going to be tight. This is going to be a game of slipstream, a game of penalties potentially. You know, Henry could just sit back and win this on penalties, but he'd rather win it on track. But if he's smart, he won't know. But it's going to be tight, and will Ross's choice to back out that move into turn 1 cost him the victory?
Yes, we will have to see in due time. A bit of slipstream there gave Ross the advantage. It's a short lap here at Brands Indy, and Henry is going all the way to try and take his title fight to Donington Park, and with it will come Ross. But who will have the advantage heading to Derbyshire in a week's time? We will find out in a few corners' time as we head now to the left, down into Graham Hill Bend. You feel like the opportunity is running away now for Henry as his penalty stays a lot smaller than that of Ross. Ross might be lining up a move. It's a bit too far back and it will be too courageous considering the championship is on his mind. Mogsy's on course to take his first podium in his debut. Finley, not the round he wanted, but the round of dreams for Henry McCartney as he comes across the line to take a sublime victory. Well fought off from the man on the Kawasaki ZX4R as Finley Cottenham finishes off the podium after a round which he needed to extend that gap. It is all to play for heading to Donington Park.
So by my math, 2 points in it.
Between the three of them.
Yep, Henry and Ross tied. Finley 2 ahead of the pair of them.
Well, would you look at that? Henry Mack takes victory, the 47.6, ahead of Ross and Mogsy. Finley Cottenham comes home 4th, ahead of Has Sutton, rounding out the top 5. But wow, Finley Cottenham, that could not have gone much worse. Okay, 2 points is still a decent advantage, but when you feel like you highly doubt Henry and Ross are going to substitute any pace and drop further below the top 5. It is immense how tight this championship has become. Only 2 rounds ago we were looking at Finley Cottenham possibly wrapping up the title as early as today, but now 3 riders go into the final round with potential to win the title. Mason, I'm going to go for the perspective of Henry. That's 2 in a row that you've managed to wrap up this championship in the second half and bring it right to the end. What does he have to do now to keep his head clear and in the right space to take it to Finley at a track where he was so quick earlier on this season?
On how he was last time, if he can.
That is exactly the way to do it. Is just keep practicing the track. I will remind, round 1 was the national layout rather than the GP layout, but nonetheless, it is mostly the same track. Jack, Donington Park, you could probably compare it a bit more to Brands Hatch and any other track than we've had this season, possibly on a wider scale. And the ZX4R, possibly not the strongest bike compared to the GS68R, but nonetheless, it is more a factor of mentality and who can manage their race the best. Because if Ross and Henry start battling at the front again, Finley Cottenham will be doing everything he can to get back ahead. But I think what's most important is qualifying. I think Finley has to get pole position, make a statement, lock down that championship battle, and try and defend for the rest of the race.
Absolutely. I mean, it's not going to be... I mean, if Finley gets on the front row, you can sort of guarantee, unless he makes a massive error, he's going to lead into turn 1. Just for the natural performance of the bikes. But if the Suzuki really prefers that track, especially the back end with the Melbourne Loop and Goddard's, it can just accelerate a lot better than the Kawasaki can. Whereas the Kawasaki might be a little bit faster in the first half and more national layout because of all the high corner speed. And the moment you get to Foggy S's, that's when the Suzuki's going to come into its own. So it's going to be quite tight. But yeah, I mean, we just saw a slipstream race. I think we could definitely see the same thing because really there's not much throttle action going on. You don't have to manage it really. As long as you don't mess up your lines through Hollywood, Craners and up Schwantz curve, realistically it's going to be a slipstream train from the whole way there, and you just got to be free abreast, maybe down into Melbourne, down up towards Goddard's, and hopefully we can have the 3 of them duking it out down to the last lap, to the last corner, to the line to try and win the championship, because realistically whoever wins the race will be champion.
Yeah, exactly that. And there is a lot of drama already unfolding in the Discord channel. Clearly someone not happy, and that is Finley Cottenham with that 4th place, as the gap goes 2 points between the 3 of them. And the man who made a difference is the man in the call right now, Mogsy, 3rd place in your debut in the Sport Bike Cup. Great to have you here, and great to have you making a difference in that championship fight, certainly helping out Ross in that situation. What do you make of that incredible race and a strong podium to start your season off in the Sport Bike Cup, despite only 2 rounds to go?
Yeah, to be fair, I enjoyed it. It was a good race. Unfortunately, obviously, I made contact with Finley and he has gone down. But my aim for the race wasn't obviously to interfere with the championship. I was trying to just, do my own thing and kind of race my own race. Besides the fact of Ross is fighting for the championship. But yeah, overall, it was a good race and I'm happy to take a podium.
Yeah, a brilliant job from you, and of course we'll hope to see you next time out at Donington Park. It was a great job from you and Ross to get both of the MLD bikes on the podium, and hopefully we will see you back on the podium next time out, as we now move on to a little bit of a talk about Mogsy while we wait for Ross to get on the call for the interviews. He did a really good job, did Mogsy, to get into that podium battle. And what I was most impressed with was how he managed that battle and didn't get too greedy. down the straight, into turn 1, into Paddock Hill Bend especially, because one of those effects, Jack, that I thought was the most important was how he sent that dive into Paddock Hill Bend and thought better of it, because that, if he committed, would have ended both their races, and therefore you feel the championship.
Yeah, I see it from two perspectives. The first one is where you see it. It's probably in the long term, probably was the better option because safer. It means they're both still in this fit. They're both in a fight. They haven't caused Finley to gain points, and ultimately, as an entertainment perspective, it's better. However, from me being in that situation, like being in those kind of situations, if it comes down to the fact that Ross loses the championship by 5 points, it can be very clear where there's or less than 5 points. It's gonna be very clear where those 5 points could have made.
Yeah.
So I think in those situations, it was probably the best idea to back out of that move. However, I feel like it might be better if he just it's one of those moments where you don't want to be indecisive. So it's better he did choose decision. However, if he had fully committed to it, and you could sort of see the line he was taking, he was going to force Henry up. But I think Henry would have been had a lot of time to react, and it wouldn't have caused any problems. So to me, I think that might be one of those times where a lack of aggression or just being too safe could cost him in the long run. But we'll see. But I'm just glad it didn't end up in a crash.
Yeah, exactly that. Brilliant podium battles all across. As I don't think we're getting Ross in for an interview at the moment. We'll have to wait and see. But for now, we'll take to the race winner. Henry, that's 2 in a row. We said earlier on in the season that what you needed to do was dominate for the rest of it to get yourself back into podium and championship contention, even after a very unlucky start to the season with collisions and all those other things. But nonetheless, a brilliant performance. Almost since you broke your wrist, the performances have been coming along in that state. And now, with 2 points separating all three of you, how do you go about this final round?
Yeah, thank you, Riley. First of all, that was an amazing race. I think we all knew it was going to be a pack race at Brands, but I just wanted to stay sort of near the back of the group. I know I was making some moves, but I just wanted to stay out of the chaos. I know Finley was caught up in an accident with Mogsy, but that was unfortunate. But it just helps me with a championship, really. I'm bringing it back from quite a large gap, so just got to keep working and see how Donington goes.
Yeah, dominance is the key, but that podium battle was absolutely incredible. And this time, it might be a different story. Donington Park could even grow into bigger battles. Of course, slipstream effects and big dive bombs into the old hairpin can all make the difference. And after a performance like that, going into Donington Park, you feel like the GS68R might have a little bit of something over that ZX4R. But I suppose the best way to keep it out of your mind is just to go for it, focus on yourself and the pace you have going into the final race, because after all, clearly that Kawasaki is capable of anything. After a double win, and of course Mogsy and Ross being competitive on that one. But who do you consider your biggest rival between the two after that performance heading into the final round?
I think, well, it's just the championship contenders, really. I know Mogsy will be definitely up the front, but like you said, the GS8R has its advantages. I don't know if you could see, but off the start, it has quite a big advantage. So you just have to bear with off the start and make up time. And me and Harrison have been working hard on the Kawasaki to try and bridge the gap to the Suzuki. But after a while, after about 1 or 2 laps, it seems to be fine.
Yeah, it seems to me like you do well to get into the race rhythm and eventually usurp those GSX8Rs from the top of the championship standings. So yeah, a few more moments coming your way, a few more announcements, that is, about the future of the championship, which will come at a later time in the final round. So be patient, wait your turn to find out. Make sure you're there next week for Donington Park, because pure action is promised. 2 points separate the top 3 in the championship, and there'll be teammates all there to make differences. Has Sutton, teammate to Finley Cottenham, Harrison Day, teammate to Henry McCartney, and of course, can you forget after that brutal battle, Mogsy, teammate to Ross. 2 bikes and 3 riders in the championship. Thank you very much for joining me in the commentary box, Jack and Mason, and make sure you're there for next one. It's going to be an absolute barnstormer. Thank you and good night.